back on the Philco here. Before we put it back in the cabinet, we're going to try an alignment, but before I do that, I'm a little confused about this antenna setup here. We have a cabinet antenna with 4 wires. It's not outlined on the SAMs or the riders very well. When I got this, I marked it. I have this wire went here at the end of a capacitor that's mounted to a terminal strip. Same capacitor that's outlined here, except mine does not solder to a ground post. This is a little different setup here than what's outlined here, and on the riders it doesn't show much for the antenna at all, just that it goes around the power cord a little bit and up. So I don't quite understand all this that's going on. In 1.01 to grounds. So in an L1 coil, I don't know anything about that business. We'll get back to that. But on this, what's confusing is I marked it. I have 4 wires from this antenna around the cabinet. One goes to the tuning capacitor for AM. That one's marked. I know where that one went. The other one went here, one end of the capacitor. This one here that goes to a red wire in the chassis there, that goes down and inside the chassis, it is outlined on this. I believe it must be this one here that goes on its way inside the chassis. That's directly connected to the green wire that attaches to the screw for the long wire on the back of the cabinet. So we have our long wire that would go to the red wire that runs along the top of the chassis. And then we have this post is grounded, and that's where two of the wires were to the ground. And then I'll call it the capacitor to nowhere. That's the other end of the capacitor. And I saw this on one other radio I was looking at, one of the Delmonicos. It has this capacitor to nowhere. It's connected here. This is the long wire. 2 wires from the cabinet antenna to ground. And then the other end of this capacitor doesn't attach anywhere. So I'm totally confused about that. Maybe someone out there knows the answer to that. The capacitor to nowhere. And 2 leads going to ground from the loop antenna inside the cabinet. So there's no diagram of this when it's relating to the SAMs or whatnot. They just start the diagram off. No particular mention of how the signal is getting into the set. And this here is the FM. Between here and here they say put your FM antenna, so this is strictly AM. So more on that later. Okay, one more back on the Philco. I've gone ahead and just put it back in its cabinet for now. I'll run down the FM. I have not aligned the FM, and I only toyed with the AM a little bit to see the functionality here of the Heathkit SG8 signal generator we picked up. Actually, I've had this for a while and I've just relocated it. So this was working on AM, and I did do the 455 alignment, but not fully because I have to find all my tuning tools. I'm not messing with the slugs without the proper tools. So I'll get all that together, and I'm not sure the accuracy of this. It functions okay, but I do want to get a frequency count on this just to check. I could use another radio to beat it with and whatnot, I've heard. But this is the Philco as it was rebuilt, and I noticed that it's a little chilly in here this morning. Last night we were playing it, and I noticed the stations drift on FM a little bit towards the left. Maybe as it warms up it has a little drift, I don't know. but I'm able to get all the stations on the dial. But that 107.9 was closer to the 108. Now it's closer to the 107. But that's all right. I move the antenna. So depending on antenna placement affects the performance here, but I still think it could stand to get a little hotter when it gets aligned. Antenna placement makes a huge difference. This station is right next door, so I don't know if it's overloading or what there.
You're on the one variety station.
It does have good coverage with just that one piece of wire.
Fighting for survival, black folks jumping on the Red Wings.
And now see, last I tuned the oscillator for 96 to be right over here. And it's about 20 to 30 degrees colder in here this morning. There's one mica domino that I have not changed.
If it's hard to find in your area, and one thing I've noticed in most of the patients come here in a ride.
From the 1990s, moved to Nashville, where he made his home for a good long time, and then he moved to Spain.
Downtown Oklahoma City, students from Westmore and Southmore High received their diplomas earlier in the day. It was a welcome relief. Is trying to clean up.
So, glad to see it working at least as good as it does. And I will experiment the alignment on a radio I don't care so much about.
Took care of me, let me take a shower.
AM, like I say, I touched one of the coils just to see if it was tuning, and it does. They're not seized. Last night there were stations all over this dial, so many that you literally had one at every square inch of the dial.
From the car, they suffered non-life-threatening injuries. Nobody hurt. Cause of that crash remains under investigation. Divers back in upstate New York today searching for the pilot of a...
Now we did find another 12BA6 that was gassy, had grid leakage on the meter, and that was a second IF amplifier.
An awareness of what God's will is and the spiritual.
That's a local station.
Feeling that the new Xbox One will be worth the wait. The company says the new system is more of an all-in-one home entertainment system than just a game-playing console. During a presentation at its headquarters in Redmond, Washington, Microsoft...
Got one more local down
Duran
here.
was the church official overseeing the case of a priest who had been convicted of sexually abuse. The priest violated and are
The price yet to be disclosed. Jeremy House, SRN News. A brief in weather conditions has
Well, that's the end of the Philco, at least back in its cabinet.
Safely on a helicopter. The aircraft picked up 80-year-old Uchiri Miura.
And we'll get to some alignment down the road a little bit when we get the fine tuning on our equipment squared away.
WVNE.